Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my update to the Earth Machine deck. Now, the reason why I decided to go with Earth Machine specifically this week is because last week I didn't really have the time to just basically play test or things like that, so I decided to go with something simple, straightforward that I can make. The second reason is because we did get the new theory and archetype revealed, and we also got a new boss monster there that is going to be a very useful monster for any machine deck moving forward. And I just wanted to make an update one final time before we'll move on 4 months from now into Dimension Force. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It's helped up a ton. Let me know in the comments down below what do you think, what you will change, and what are particular things that you find interesting or, you can teach me. I'll be more than happy to learn some new things. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video itself. Alright, so jumping into the deck itself, I'm just going to explain the idea for the deck again. Basically, the deck itself didn't really change so much from last time, because there's really not a whole lot of things to change, but if you don't know how the deck works, the entire idea, just like any good machine deck, you're trying to OTK your opponent if you're going second, or if you're going first, sit on this particular guy, basically, and then use some of your resource generation cards, which we'll talk about them, and essentially outgrind your opponent. Because you do have cards that shuffle things back from your graveyard or banish zone back into your deck, and then you can just sit on this, grind your opponent, and then essentially use your back row and other stuff to just deal with them, which is kind of like the entire idea of the deck. And it's actually a strategy that works really well. I'm not sure if it's strong as it used to be because of, the changes of the meta, but it also has some advantages right now because I don't see a whole lot of people running back row removal, so I guess there is upsides and downsides for this deck. But now let's jump right into the deck, and we're going to start first with our infinitrack engine, with the 3 copies of infinitrack Harvester, 3 copies of infinitrack Bulldozer, double copies of Trencher, then 1 copy of Tunneler, and 1 copy of Uncle Drill. Now, in this particular engine, infinitrack Harvester, or should I say just Harvester, I don't know why I'm saying the full archetype name, is basically your searcher of the archetype. When normal special summon, you search any infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand, and then you also have the effect with it and this as well, because they're the little infinitrack monsters, is that they can target another Earth Machine monster you control, or should I say another machine monster you control, and then the combined level basically is shared between these two. So basically, let's say you target a level 5, these two together will become a level 7. If you target a level 4, these two will become together a level 6. That's how that works. This one's the same thing, it's also at 4 levels instead of 5, or should I say 2 to the other monster as well. So keep that in mind when you're calculating these, it's really important. Uncle Drill, on the other hand, only need as a one-off because it's just good for your additional breaking boards tools with things like Ding Dong, or should I say, what are they called? Dingirsu. But for the most part, it's just a free special summon from hand. It's not as good as a search because this can be negated and, your turn can sometimes end, although it doesn't really matter. But, it's not as good as an Harvester. Let's just say that. Bulldozer is your basic card that allowing you to do all of your crazy stuff. This one, tribute any Earth Machine you control, and you lock yourself into Earth Machines for the turn, but you can also special summon any infinitrack monster from your deck in defense position, but you negate its effect. So mostly what you're trying to do is summoning one of these 3 to then make a rank 5 into a River Stormer or any other tool that you need, and you basically lock yourself into Earth Machines, but you don't really care about that much because you're able to do some really crazy things. Now, in the case of Trencher is just banish itself from grave and special summon any infinitrack level 5 or lower except itself in defense position. That's kind of how that goes with it. Sometimes I want to run the 1, but I think the second card, or should I say the second copy, does come up enough for me to want to run it. And then the last one is Tunneler, which is the card that allowing you to grind your opponent. Because this card has the effect that you can banish it from the graveyard to special summon this card, to banish this card from the graveyard to shuffle 5 Earth Machines from your graveyard into your deck and draw 2 cards, which is really powerful because you also have another trap that basically shuffle 3 of your banished cards, any machine banished cards, and draw 1 card, and you can just continue to loop the engine over and over again until you outgrind your opponent. All of these monsters can special summon itself by treating any Earth machine, so keep that in mind when you're playing the deck. But that does it for the infinitrack engine. Now we'll move on into the machina engine. And the machina engine consists of 3 copies of Metal Cruncher, 1 copy of Citadel, and 1 copy of Fortress. Citadel is just really good with your trap, and just in general, if it's in your graveyard, if your Earth machines get destroyed, and it's also just a really good card to just wipe your opponent's entire board, and it's very annoying to deal with. Machina Fortress, some people like to run more than 1. If you want to cut the Trencher down to 1, running a second copy of Machina Fortress is actually not bad, but I don't really think you need the second one. But again, like I said, maybe I want the second one instead of the copy of Trencher. I'm not 100% sure about that yet, but I think Machina Fortress at 1 it's good enough. You just use this if you have the you search it with the redeployment. It's not always that good, but it's still very nice card to also help you recover later, because you can just keep special summoning it as a body, and it's still a 2500 body, which is really nice. And then, if you don't know, this is basically the other starter card of the deck, which is not a spell, like one of your additional normal summons. This guy is really nice. You can normal summon it if you control no monsters, and then it can search any Earth machine. Like, you reveal 3 Earth machines with any 3 of them, doesn't have to be different names, and your opponent pick randomly 1. So for example, let's say you want to get your Brutal Dozer, you reveal 3 Brutal Dozer. If it's not in your hand, your opponent just add a Brutal Dozer to your hand because they don't have any other choice. So this is a really nice additional extender, or should I say starter. It is a shame that it's a level 9, but it's still very good. And then for your last engine for Earth machines, we have the 2 Derek Crane, 1 Bullet Train, and 1 Gearbox. This is basically your last few cards. Derek Crane is a special summon if you use special summon an Earth machine, and if it's attached to an Xyz monster and you detach it, it's basically a free pop. That's why I like to run the 2. It's also a really good card to stop hand traps. So that's why I like the second one instead of the 2 Bullet Train, although you could make the argument to run the second Bullet Train instead of the second Derek Crane, so it is, what you want specifically. But I like this the way it is. Bullet Train is also really useful for its grave effects, being able to recover any Earth machine from your graveyard to your hand, because you can grab something that you use for your combo like a Harvester, and then reuse it as your combo starter right again in the later turn, which is really good. Can also be special summon only if you control an Earth machine monsters to your side of the field, which is very important to remember. And then Gearbox is just search by Ballista in the turn, and even if you draw into it, there is ways to get this back into your deck and then just search it again, so that's not the end of the world drawing into it. It's just a card that you mostly don't want to draw into, but it's still not the end of the world. But that does it for the engines for Earth machines, and now for the last monster is 3 copies of Effect Veilers, just for, monster negation for hand traps. That's literally what else that I want to run. That's it. So that does it for the monsters. Now we'll move on into the spells, and for the spells, we have 8 spells that are consistency spells, which are the 3 copies of Heavy Forward, 3 copies of Redeployment, and 2 copies of Urgent Schedule. Basically, these are your additional 6 starters, so you have 12 starters in the deck, just like, what are called, Adagnester have, so you have the 6 monster starters, and then you have also the 6 spell starters, just like they do. And it's kind of funny that it's kind of also the same dynamic that you have the, also one of the spell starters being a discard, which is just like Redeployment, so that's kind of hilarious. But the point is, Heavy Forward is just a way to search any infinitrack that you want to, or should I say infinitrack monster that you want to. And it's also have some additional applications for giving it as a material to one of your Xyz monsters, but mostly you don't really use that like that much. It's just a good option to have. Then we have Redeployment, which is a very interesting card. By discarding any card, you get to add 2 Machina monsters from your deck with different name for your deck to your hand. And then if you discard a Machina card, which sometimes does happen, you can basically search 2 Machina cards instead. This can even be your trap, which is really nice because it's giving you the access into it if you don't draw into it. Because sometimes, let's say I'm drawing 2 Mellow Crunchers. I don't have any use for a Mellow Cruncher anymore, and I draw on 2. There's really no reason for it. I will discard it, search 1 Fortress, and then search for the trap. So that's why Redeployment is an excellent card. And then we have Urgent Schedule, because Urgent Schedule is just a really, really good card going second. Sometimes I actually miss the third, but I think 2 is the correct ratio. You don't want to see it way too much, although it's not the end of the world to open up with, because you can use Unger Knuckle to send this to the graveyard in one of your combos, or at least like combo routes. You can send it to the graveyard and then can search a level 10. So that is really, really nice. It's still a very, very nice card. And like I said, it's more of like a going second card, but even if you do draw it going first, it's not the end of the world. And then for our last spell card, if you have droplets, play those instead. The one that I decided to run for a spell, Hand Trap / Interruption, is Forbidden Chalice. I have a lot of monster negations here because it's seen in the format that we're dealing with a lot of monster effects, so I felt like monster negations effects are a little bit better. Also, this is good, so can help you in OTK scenarios, because sometimes 400 attack is all that you need, so you can go into something like Earth Slicer, pop your opponent's entire board with his effect, and then just give it an additional 4 additional attack boost, and then just OTK your opponent. So that is kind of very, very important to sometimes have. But that does it for the spells. Now for the traps. For the traps, we have 2 Machina Overdrive, which is the trap that I talked about, 2 Torrential Tribute, and then 3 Infinite Impermanence. If you want to cut the chalice for things like Solemn Strikes and stuff like that, be my guest. I just decided to go with Chalice because it's also a quick play spell. And Infinite Permanence is our last free set of a hand trap that deal with monster effects. Like I said, there is a lot of monster hate in this deck. Now, for this particular one, these are basically the traps that I decided to go with. Infinite Impermanence, you can use it multiple times per turn. Torrential Tribute, you can use it multiple times per turn if you need to, if a monster is summoned. And then Overdrive is just really, really important. Basically, it's the other card that I mentioned that is good for the grind. You can only use one of the effects per turn and only once that turn. The first effect is the effect that you're mostly going to use during your opponent's turn, which is target one machine monster you control, and then basically special summon to one machina monster with a different name from your hand or deck, and if you do, destroy that monster. So basically this is a great way to see your Machina Citadel, but I don't want to run 3 because 3 is too much, because sometimes I do see Citadel in my hand, or I don't really need the additional copies of this, and I just need the Grave effect. So that's why I'm only running 2. You can draw into them, and like I said, you can search into them as well with your redeployment. So 2 is more than enough, and mostly what you care about is the Grave effect, that you can shuffle 3 of your banished machine monsters, or that in the graveyard or banished, and then you get to draw a card, which gets you back things like your Tunneler, which then can allow you to do your combos again. So that's why it's really important to run. But that does it for the main deck, and as a whole, 40 cards as usual. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. For the extra deck, we're going to start with the Link monsters. First and foremost, the most important Link monster in my opinion for the combos, infinitrack Goliath, then the copy of Ballista, the copy of Unger Knuckle, and the new edition, the copy of Genius. In the previous list, I ran 2 copies of Unger Knuckle, which I don't really understand why I did that, because there's really no reason to run the second copy of Unger Knuckle, especially for the fact that it does stay in the graveyard and come back every single turn. Not to mention that if I need to, and if it gets banished, I can use the Overdrive effect in Grave, shuffle it back into my extra deck, and then draw a card on top of that as well. So it's like, it's not the end of the world if this get banished, and it's more of like a grind game card more than like the main monsters that you're trying to end on. So it is the main monster that you want to try to end on turn 1, but it doesn't really matter for more than that, in my opinion. It is a great resource for grinding, but mostly it's just really, really good because of the fact that you can use it to summon back your Bullet Train during the opponent's turn, and then get back your, for example, your box from the graveyard to your hand, to then get another search to an Ankle Drill, and then just go into a Dingirsu. So that's kind of like how the thing works here. Then, Genius, the reason why I like it is because, A, it's allowing me to sometimes just link into it and then link into the Unger Knuckle, because there are some particular combos that require you to do that. And on top of that, it's also a monster negation effect, or just a card negation effect, which sometimes is really helpful when you're trying to break boards. Also, if you do have Urgent Schedule, when you use this card, you also getting an additional search, because you can summon 2 monsters to its Slinks arrows, and then get the search, which is really nice. Ballista, just search your box, doesn't really need any explanation. And then Goliath is either giving you protection, or just like starting the entire idea of how infinitrack monsters work. You just basically use him as like link him, and then you just use your Xyz monster, and then you tribute this, summon the Xyz monster. The Xyz monster will link again back, and you're just creating a lot of fodders in the graveyard for your tunneler to then shuffle back into your deck for cards that you don't really mind shuffling back into your extra deck. And that does it for the link monsters. For the Xyz monsters, we're going to start things with the River Stormer and Earth Slicer, as well as I'm going to throw in also the Dingirsu, because I felt like just felt like a package, I guess, that works together, although it doesn't really. But the point is, this is basically your follow-up play with your Uncle Drill and a box, because you use box to search an Uncle Drill, you normal summon a box, special summon normal summon the Uncle Drill, special summon the box, and then make them both level 8 go into Dingirsu. But these two specific cards are your infinitrack monsters as well. River Stormer is the one that you use the most, and it's also a card that you don't really mind leaving in the graveyard, because you can always just tribute any machine link monster and then just special summon it back, and then if it's a Goliath, you just attach it back and get the effect to search, which is great. Same idea with Earth Slicer, but Earth Slicer here is more of like I guess like an OTK tool, because you can go into it as a rank 9, pop your opponent, field, and then just proceed to OTK your opponent, which is really, really nice. Then, for your other extra deck stuff, we have the rank 10 stuff, which is the 1 copy of Gustav Max, the 1 copy of Super Dora, and then the 1 copy of Juggernaut Lieb. I don't really think I need to explain this that much. It's pretty much an OTK engine, Gustav Max to burn your opponent, Dora to sit on, and Lieb because it's just able to attack multiple things. And then for the last 3 cards, we have Thunder Charger, Zeus, and Phantom Forces Enter Blafnir. I think that's how you pronounce this one. Basically, Enter Blafnir is basically your rank 9 going first. You rip a card out of your opponent's hand. You can use it sometimes going second, but mostly you use it going first, rip a card out of your opponent's hand for the rank 9 combo with redeployment. And then these two specifically are just the two most important monsters when it comes to, like, sometimes grinding, when it comes to the Xyz, and, like, just trying to force your opponent into a very annoying situation. Because what you kind of do is that you can go into, a River Stormer, which 2 materials, then attach on it the Thunder Charger, which then will mean that it has 3 materials for the Thunder Charger if you didn't use the effect, attack, and then just attach the Zeus with 2 interruptions of the Zeus. Now, of course, you can also go just like using the, the River Stormer in a later turn, and then attach on it immediately the Thunder Charger, and then attack without like even using anything else, and then attach the Zeus for at least 1 interruption of the Zeus. But yeah, it's just here because it just works with the deck really well, and Thunder Charger is just here because sometimes it's giving you the extra material that you need for the Zeus to have, like, for example, 4 materials instead of 3, so you can use his effect. It's really depend on what you're trying to go for. If you want to cut this card, by all means, you're more than able to, and you can choose for yourself, but I felt like this is just really nice. But that does it for the extra deck, and does it for the deck profile as a whole. So hope you enjoyed, hope it explained to you something if you don't really know about the deck. I don't really think you need to explain the deck too much, because it's pretty simple, and it's very fun. But that does it for the deck itself. Now let's move on into the combo section. Welcome to the combo section. And in the combo section, I'm going to teach you a few combos that I think are very important to know playing this deck. Now, as I mentioned before, most of the combos are pretty much going to end up on this guy, which is Dumble, Unger Knuckle, and additional back row to back it up to essentially help you to basically OTK you. Or OTK your opponent in the next turn, or at least build up a grind game so you're able to out-resource your opponent. And this particular combo you can open up with either Harvester, Mel Cruncher, or Heavy Forward. It doesn't really matter which one of these. This is basically your 3 1-card starters that are allowing you to go into this combo. So for this particular one, I'm just going to use Harvester because in my opinion, it's the best starter. So starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Harvester, and we're going to use the effect to search the Brutal Dozer. Brutal Dozer, tribute the Harvester, and we're going to use Brutal Dozer effect to special summon
the Trencher. Trencher and Harvester, and Trencher and Brutal Dozer, sorry. We're going to summon the River Stormer, detach any material, and add from our deck to our hand the Bullet Train. We're then going to link this off into our Goliath, and then use Bullet Train effect, special summon itself, and link these two off into your Ballista. Ballista effect, we're going to search our Gearbox, and then Gearbox effect, we're going to search our Tunneler. Tunneler effect, tribute the Ballista, special summon itself from our hand, and then link this one off into Goliath. Then use the effect of River Stormer in our graveyard to tribute Goliath, special summon itself, and then use it again to special summon the second Goliath. Or should I say the third Goliath. Then we're going to use finally the effect of Trencher in our graveyard, banish it, summon any of our infinitrack monsters, which in this particular case I'm just going to go with Brutal Dozer, and then link these two off into our double Unger Knuckle. Then we finally going to use the effect of Trencher in our graveyard, shuffling the 3 link monsters, the Goliaths, and then shuffling also, I think the best one to shuffle is Brutal Dozer, and then Ballista, and then shuffle these into the deck and draw 2 new fresh cards on top of the cards, the 4 other cards that we should already have in our hand. And then of course during the end phase, we're also going to get the infinitrack Harvester back to our hand with, like I said again, 4 additional other cards in our hand, so that is really nice. So that's how the combo goes for the baseline combo. This is kind of like the main lines of how combos work in this deck. But that does it for combo number 1. Let's move on to combo number 2. Alright, so for our second combo, I'm actually going to teach you what's going to happen if you are opening up with Box as one of your cards in your opening hand. There is capabilities of using Box effect even later in the combo because of the idea of the deck being able to shuffle things back into the deck and draw additional cards instead. So basically you're going to use this kind of like an engine and essentially use this as like a letter card to basically search as part of your combo. Now, if you draw into it after you shuffle it back into the deck, it is what it is, but you're going to try to do your best. And yeah, so the other card can be any of your 9 starter cards that I mentioned before, and this particular one I'm just going to use the Metal Cruncher just because I also want to explain some applications if you do open up with a Metal Cruncher. So to start things off, we're going to normal summon our Metal Cruncher and use its effect to reveal 3 Brutal Dozers and then add 1 to our hand. We're going to tribute this one, special summon the Brutal Dozer, and special summon directly from our deck the Tunneler. In this particular case, it's really important to summon the Tunneler first. We're going to exceed these 2 into River Stormer, detach any material to add from our deck to our hand the Bullet Train. We're then going to link this one off into a Goliath, and then we're going to use the Bullet Train to special summon itself because it can only control Earth machines, and then link these 2 into double Unger Knuckle. Then what we're going to do is that we're going to use the effect of double Unger Knuckle, sending our box from our hand to the graveyard, and then special summon the Bullet Train. We're then going to use the effect of River Stormer to tribute any link machine that we have, and summon itself back. And then finally, we're going to use the effect of Tunneler to shuffle 5 cards from our graveyard into the deck. Actually, that is going to be happening after we're going to use the River Stormer again to go into the second copy of Goliath. This is going to have happened after that. That's my apologies. So you're going to shuffle 5 cards directly from your graveyard into your deck. Those 5 cards have to be these 5 out of your graveyard. If you open up with an Harvester, you can shuffle the Brutal Dozer instead, but you do have to have an infinitrack in your graveyard, so these are the 5s that you have to shuffle back into your deck. So we're going to shuffle these 5 into our deck, and then we're going to draw 2 additional fresh new cards from our hand. Then we're going to use these 2, link these off into our Ballista, and then Ballista is going to search once again back our Gearbox. If we haven't drawn it again, if we had, we are just going to go once again into Unger Knuckle. It is what it is. But if we didn't, we're going to search with it the Trencher. Trencher effect, tribute the Ballista, special summon the Trencher, and then we're going to use the Trencher to link summon into our second Goliath. And that's why you needed the Brutal Dozer or any infinitrack in your graveyard, because if you don't have one of these in your graveyard, you cannot use Goliath Trencher effect because it can only summon an infinitrack monster level 5 or lower from our graveyard. So we're now going to use the effect to banish itself and special summon the Trencher, and then, or should I say Brutal Dozer, and then we're going to use these two once again to summon the Unger Knuckle, and then during the end phase, we're going to add back to our hand the Brutal Dozer in this particular combo. Now, if you open up with Harvester, you add a Harvester instead. It is what it is in these particular kind of combos, so it's very important to know. But that does it for combo number 3. Should I say combo number 2, the box combo. Even if you open up with box, it's still possible to play. Now let's move on to combo number 3. So for our final combo for this video, I'm going to teach you what can happen if you open up with your final starter card and any random discard, which is basically Machina Redeployment. This particular one known as the rank 9 combo. If you know how it works, pretty much really simple, but I did add one particular layer to essentially also recover your starter card with a bullet train in the end, which you'll see what I mean. So to start things off, we're going to use the effect of Redeployment to discard the random card and add from our deck to our hand the two lovely cards, Fortress and Metal Cruncher. Now we're going to use the effect of Metal Cruncher, normal summon it, and search from our deck to our hand by revealing 3 copies of Harvester. We're then going to use the effect of Fortress using these two to use for Fortress effect. And then we're going to link these two off into our Ballista. Ballista effect will add the box, and then box will add the Trencher to our hand. We're then going to use Fortress effect again to use these two, summon itself, and then we're going to use the effect of Trencher to summon back our Harvester back from our graveyard. Then use Harvester effect. We're going to add to our hand the Brutal Dozer, and then we're going to use the second effect of Harvester, making both of these level 9 because these are the sum of the levels, and we're going to Exceed Summon into the Phantom Fortress. Now, Phantom Fortress have 4 effects, but going first, only one effect matters, which is the second one. Banish one random card from your opponent's hand. I wish it was a card that you can choose, but one random card from your opponent's hand is better than nothing, so we'll have one less resource to work with, so we're just going to do that. Next, we're going to use Brutal Dozer effect to tribute the Ballista and special summon itself, and then it will special summon directly from our deck the copy of Tunneler. We're then going to Exceed these two off into our River Stormer, detach any of these as a material to add from our deck to our hand the Bullet Train. Then we're going to link this off into our first Goliath, use the normal effect again of tributing the Goliath, use this off again to make our second Goliath, and then we're going to link these two off, not into our Unger Knuckle, but into our Genius. This will allow us to use the Bullet Train to then recover a card, to special summon it, and then use these two to make the Unger Knuckle. Now, if you want to keep the Bullet Train in your hand, you can immediately just go into the Unger Knuckle, but I think getting the starter card back into your hand is a little bit better than getting the Bullet Train as an extender. Now, of course, it's depending on your hand and what you're able to open up with, because sometimes you do want to do that, or you want to do the other. It is what it is. Maybe you want to use Tunneler effect right now before you do this to just draw before, because you do have the resources in your graveyard, and then you just do the which one of these that you choose. But for this particular combo, just to show, we're going to go with the Genius, special summon the Bullet Train, and then link these two off into the Unger Knuckle. Then we're going to use, what is name effect, the Tunneler, banish itself, shuffle back into your extra deck the Genius, the 2 Goliaths, and then the 1 Ballista. And the last card, honestly, I think I would go with... I actually don't know, because this needs to stay in the graveyard in order to recover this back to our hand. So this also needs to stay in the graveyard. These two specifically are really good to stay. This is good because of this card secondary effect to leave this in the graveyard to special summon the Bullet Train back to maybe send it to the graveyard and get this, especially right now. So I think I will shuffle back also the Brutal Dozer for my graveyard back into my deck. Now, of course, it's really dependent on your hand. Sometimes you don't even want to use the Bullet Train and just go immediately into the Unger Knuckle, but it is what it is. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to also get 2 additional fresh new cards into our hand. So we'll rip a card out of our opponent's hand. We still have a starter or a bullet train, depending on the combo that I show you, the options that you can choose. And we also have still an additional 3 cards in our hand regardless. So this is a really, really strong combo, and if you're able to do it, it's actually can be really, really powerful, because you're giving your opponent 1 card less to work with, which is sometimes actually matters quite a bit, especially if you discard something really, really important like a droplets. So yeah, that's pretty much does it for the combo, and does it for the combo section as a whole. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to check more combos, 2 additional ones that I kind of didn't cover because I kind of just don't really have the time, or I just don't want to repeat combos again, you're more than welcome to check my previous Earth Machine list on my channel, which I will try to link in the description down below, and then just check the Urgent Schedule combo and the level 10 combo, which you will see in the video itself if you want to check that out. But that does it for the combo section itself. Now let's move on into the next deck choices.
Alright, so for the next deck choices, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We have the 3 choices from last week, which are going to be Lyrilusk, the Zombies, or should I say Zombie World, and Lightsworn. And then the 4th and final option is an option that you probably don't think to yourself that got support recently, but it actually did, and that is Fluffles. If you want me to do a Fluffle deck, let me know in the comments down below, or any of these 3 particular decks. So yeah, once again, I'm going to go over this again. It's going to be either Lyrilusk, Zombies, Lightsworns, or Fluffles. These are your 4 options to choose for next week. But that's pretty much does it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.